Hey everybody, welcome back to Faraday Research. It is Saturday night and it's about 2:39 in the morning. So it's a late night for me. So I've been working on this generator for the last while, and I decided last week I was going to rebuild the spark gap so you can actually see it here. So it works amazing. It's really, really cool. So I was on one of the message boards, and one of the guys posted a message that shows a document that Tesla wrote way back regarding high frequency, high voltage circuits using spark gap, specifically the spark gap. So the first thing was, in most of his circuits that he uses spark gap, he would have 3 spark gaps. So I've got 1, 2, the one in the middle, and 3. So I got 3 spark gaps in series. Okay. Now, the way I built this thing, I was shocked to find out that it was actually exactly the way Tesla said for it to be. So you got your high voltage source, goes through the 3 spark gaps in series. From there, the line comes out and goes to a condenser or a coil. So in this circuit, I decided to use both. So I'm using what he called a condenser, but back then they called it what we call it today is a capacitor. So we got that in the circuit. Number 2, he said also a reactance coil, an inductance coil. So that's exactly what this is. So I managed to buy these on Amazon. They came in a pack of 10. And actually, I'll show you in the box there. That's all there. And I've been designing a couple of them. That's the first one. This one I have to rebuild because it shorted out on me. But this one only has the one core in the middle. It's about 40 turns of 22 gauge wire. And then I got the ferrite core around it. So from the spark gap, it goes through into this core, comes out the core, goes through the high voltage 15 kVA capacitor to the halogen bulb. All right. So I got that set up, and it turned out that when I read this document, it was the way I have this set up now is exactly the way he said back in the 1890s, which I was very shocked to find out that I actually set this up exactly the way Tesla did. So, the amount of voltage, 12 volts at 1 amp, was 12 watts, give or take 13. Let's say 13 watts, give or take. This bulb now is fully lighting up. It's pulsed though. So what he was saying, the best method of using this particular device is to send it through a coil, go through a high voltage capacitor, store up capacitors. So yeah, I want to use it in the DC medium because eventually I want to use it to charge batteries. Okay. You have to figure out what the system actually is for. This is just proof of concept of what I'm doing. Everything that I've done up to this part has been valuable information for me, even though that I'm not going to use it in this configuration. Okay. I'm going to use this to charge up batteries. All right. So I'll have the spark gap, same deal. I'll have the coil, and then from the coil, it will go to a high voltage capacitor. From there, it goes to a full wave bridge rectifier. Okay, that'll be added to the circuit. From the full wave bridge rectifier, it goes to DC capacitors. And he says, as soon as you get it, this is Tesla's words in the document, as soon as you can get the high voltage, high frequency voltage into a capacitor, that is key. The second you get it into a capacitor, now the world's your oyster. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. You can make it a pulsed DC. You can make it a pulsed AC. You can do whatever you want with this power now. So I have high-speed MOSFET switch that I could use. I can run AC devices with it, set it at 60 hertz. I'm laughing. Or I'm going to be charging capacitors. So it will go from the high voltage capacitor here. It's going to go to the full wave bridge rectifier next in series or in parallel. Very important. It'll be in parallel. From there, it goes to the bridge rectifier. From the bridge rectifier, it goes to the capacitors. Now I can do whatever the hell I want with it. Now it's in a DC medium. Now I can take from the DC capacitors and put it into a solar charge controller, which will control that power now, and I can charge lead acid batteries with it. This is what I'm after. What I'm doing right now, it's fine. It's very valuable what I've been learning. How to tune the spark gap and resonant frequency with the coil, and then get that under control, put it through the high voltage capacitor, and then light up this. Now this is pulsed because don't forget we're using the spark gap. We've got 3 of them. So irregardless that there's a pulsation, it's putting out the full amount of power to light this completely. This is rated at 50 watts. It might be slightly less than 50 watts when I'm running it, but because it's fully illuminated, that shows me I'm getting the peak voltage. If I wasn't getting peak voltage, this thing would not illuminate the way it is. So I'm going to turn it on. It is pulsing. It's also going to make a lot of noise with the capacitors, or sorry, with the spark gaps set up. But for me, actually, it's quite quiet now because I made such an improvement on my spark gap. It's made a world of difference, big time. So there is a build video in the bottom. Don't forget, description. I have my subscribe button, bottom right corner. In the description, I got my Patreon account. If you like what I'm doing, help me fund some of these projects so I can help you get your projects on the right track. You can do so below in the description. And okay, let's do this test now. I'm going to show you. So it's going to be pulsed, but it is fully illuminated. And I also know so is because after running this for about 5 minutes, this bulb gets really hot. So that shows me I am also pumping not just voltage, I'm pumping amperage into it. So let's do that now. I'm not going to talk during the runtime because the sound's just going to go crazy. So I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to, pan around so you can see what's going on. So we're going to go right to 12 volts. All right, there you go. So, like I said, it was pulsed, but it's actually pulsing at a lot faster frequency than what it's showing up on the camera. But you got to take my word for it. I can't prove it to you. I'm not at your house, so it is what it is. So that's it. So basically, I understand what's happening, what the difference between what Tesla was up to and what the rest of the world uses. He's basing his on a power median. Instead of an energy based, he's doing his stuff as far as a power, not the energy type, because the energy type will always have losses. This one here, because he's using always a high frequency and high voltage, he can always make the gains. He can always make over unity. And he knew this a long time ago. Now, he didn't have the high-speed MOSFET switches that we have now. Okay, they would probably work good too, but I'm still really toying around with spark gap. It's really intrigued me because there's so many properties of this that are just unknown right now. Oh, one other thing I can kind of been working on is my Faraday cage. So I've taken a box and basically lined it with tin foil. Now, the reason why I did it like this is so you guys out there, you don't have to go out and spend half your bank account building a Faraday cage. This will actually insulate you. So what you have to do now is hook up a ground wire and put it to earth ground. Thicker the wire and shorter the wire, the better. So I've basically just taken a box, literally, and wrapped it with tinfoil. And it also cuts down on the noise in the spark gap. I can put it over my whole device if I want to. It'll still run just fine with the box on it. And you don't have to worry about the FCC showing up at your doorstep. So it's a very simple. I wanted to keep it simple. I could have done it with chicken wire. I could have done used an old microwave. I could have used so many different things, but I wanted to get something that's really cheap and very easy to make that anybody can make at home. I'll just take a box and just line it with tinfoil. Tape it down good so it's nice and flat, and hook up a ground wire to the side of the box. Either punch a hole through, put a screw in, put a thick wire on it, and connect it to an earth ground. And there you go, that's your Faraday cage. Any kind of metal box will be a Faraday cage, as long as you ground it. So if you have like a metal case or an old computer case, you can use that. That will work as a Faraday cage as well. Anything that is surrounded by steel or metallic, anything metallic, and it's grounded. So that will minimize the amount of electromagnetic interference, EMPs, whatever. It'll protect your devices. So, yeah, it's almost 3 a.m. I'm really tired. I've been toying around with everything: capacitors, coils, coil sizes, homemade transformer cores, lights, capacitor, you name it. I've been toying around with everything tonight. So I hope this helped you guys out. I'll run it one more time just for sake of argument, just so you can see everything running again. So I hope you understand this is not the route I'm going. I don't care that I could light up a 50-watt bulb. That's not my concern. My concern is being able to charge up capacitors. That's my goal. Because when I charge up, like Tesla said in his writings, he goes, the second you're able to charge up capacitors, you can do whatever the heck you want with it now. You can make it into AC. You can make it into DC. You can put it through a frequency oscillator or a 555 timer chip. You now have full control over this power. So it's a matter of getting a high voltage converted into a condenser source. He called it a condenser, but today we call it capacitors. Same thing. And yeah, as soon as you're able to get that voltage in the capacitor, you can do whatever you want with it. So I have a really good high-speed MOSFET chip set up with a computer control board that I can control frequency and duty cycle. So that will be coming up soon. I won't need the oscillator because I'm not using it in that way. I'm using this to charge capacitors. That is my ultimate goal. But doing all this stuff, really educational. It's helped me big time understand what's going on. So I have to stay focused on what was my goal with this Tesla circuit, Don Smith, Joule Thief. They're all the same. They all are the same. In essence, they are. I'm using a little bit more old school approach using the spark gaps. A lot of people say, nah, you used a high speed MOSFET. That's fine. You can do whatever the heck you want. But I like the spark gap for certain reasons. I don't know. It's just my own little bias, if you want to call it. But I've learned a lot with it. I'm telling you, the stuff, sometimes you have to go to the first guy who toyed with this stuff because he knows he was studying this stuff for years and years. So who better to reference than Tesla himself? So yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to call it a wrap. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe in the bottom right hand corner. More videos are coming. I got the Faraday cage almost done. I did a show on Bernie's podcast earlier tonight. I'm going to be doing a show again tomorrow night with Bernie again. I don't know what time it's going to be. Knowing him, probably late. So yeah, give me a thumbs up and we'll see everybody soon.